put your hands together for Suzie Lee Arbuthnot, the best home cook. Just watching that again, I think even still, even though we know the result and we know that you won, our hearts are in our mouths. At home, I think my heart stopped beating. I can't even begin to imagine what it must have been like in the studio.
It was a completely surreal experience. As you saw, I was looking down, holding onto George's hand. I didn't even compute they said my name. That's why my face was so confused and so kind of a strange kind of face shape. And then I was like, oh my goodness, it was actually me. And it was, I never believed it was going to be me. Genuinely, I thought it was Georgia. And when you heard what the judges had said, because when they're having their dinner party at one space, you could hear what they were saying. And they're like, it's delicious and it's beautiful. And it really was. And it was just very different to mine though. So if they were in that mood, then that's why I sort of thought, I think she's clinched it that way because it was so much more, elaborate than mine. Mine was a chicken dinner.
But the best chicken dinner.
Thank you.
But do you not feel incredibly proud of the fact that you have this title? Because you get your master chefs, obviously, and that's all about finesse. Bake Off, about baking, but this is proper feed your family home cooking.
Yeah, so I did actually apply for the Bake Off, and I did really, really want to do it. I love baking, and it's just another skill set that I thought that's what I want to showcase. But I didn't get on. I was first reserve, and I was devastated. Got to week 3, and they phoned and just said, you're not needed. So I was really sad. But when my same friend, sent me a link to this application, I was like, actually, this might tick more than just the baking box. It's got everything. And nope, it's not MasterChef. It's not, haute cuisine and super pretty food and tiny food. Don't do tiny food.
No, I think we all know that Suzie does not do tiny food.
So I was like, I think I'm going to apply for this then. So I did, and it was the last day of the applications in my true late fashion, with a couple of minutes to go to send it in, and that was it. Pretty much 2 days later, I got a phone call, and they're like, can you do a phone interview? And I was like, okay. I was a bit confused because I had 2 children running around in the background going, who? I was like, okay. So scheduled for a call. After that, they came to Belfast and then tried some of my food, and then I went to London and then did a full run through of the 3 different stages of the ultimate, the rustle up, and then eliminator. And my slot was 7 a.m. one morning on the 7th of January, and it was crazy to get your mind into thinking, right, I'm going to cook solidly for literally, we were there for 5 hours, because I had to do everything back to back and then sort of judge it as well. So yeah, it was a really surreal experience.
When they said, Suzie, it's you, come and join us, come to the house, come into the studio, certainly for those first couple of days, there you are with your heroes. You applied to the Bake Off, you love the Blessed Mary Berry. Twinkle Toes Claudia Winkleman's there. So were you running around going, there's Mary Berry and Claudia?
Absolutely. I was completely starstruck. They walked in and I was just like, oh, and I did freeze. And like many of the other contestants did, at the very first time the judges came in, everybody was told off in the sense that we were told reset, and that means you have to start from the start and take your positions and act normally. I don't know how you act normally when you see celebs. So they were just like, guys, look, surprised and excited instead of startled. So yeah, I then was just in awe of them. Like, Mary Berry is a lady and she knows her stuff. She's just lovely. And Claudia, keep coughing there. Thanks. Sorry, don't.
I'll keep it to myself. It's not coronavirus, honestly. It is actually an allergy. Forgive me.
And Claudia was so personable. She remembers everybody's spouse or partner and children. It was lovely. And she remembered stories. And do you know when you're just kind of she doesn't need to do that or at all, or even chat just in between takes? She did. And she made it. She really just kept us together. It was lovely.
You mentioned about, you don't do tiny food. And that was one of the things that I think we all laughed about, which was no matter what dish you served up, it was family sized. And the judges were going, that is supposed to feed 4 people, and you just think, well, obviously, and just clearly you've never been to Lisburn. I mean, that is the bottom line here.
Exactly. So I did get a lot of criticism from the judges. They were very much like, why is it this can't be just for 4 people? I was just like, yes, that's my normal size kind of portion per person, divided up. And they're just like, but it's excessive. I was just like, I would rather have too much than too little. And I would hate for my guests to be like, I'm still hungry. Could you imagine? I couldn't do that. So if I have people going away, I'm stuffed. That's my response. But you can always use leftovers.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I loved was that you were very unapologetic about what you wanted to cook. It was like, no, this is the way I want to season it. No, I'm not going to use extra salt. This is not what I would do for my family. I mean, you really stuck true to your principles.
Yeah, I didn't let my guard down there. And to be honest, I did have a few kind of arguments with the judges, because I was like, this is for my children. This is what I would cook. Why would I add this extra gigantic pinch of salt to the food? And they're like, no, but it enhances this flavour. And one of the days they did, after everything, they seasoned it to what they thought one of our dishes. And I couldn't take it. I genuinely thought it was too salty. But towards the end, you got smart and, you just went an extra pinch for the judges. And actually, Claudia did joke about that. So, I mean, you learn, and, that's an all experience part of it.
So, what you look at there is you create the ultimate, which is what you get a chance to practice and go in and do. You've got the challenge round, where you're given a recipe that you have to stick to, and quite a detailed recipe. And then there was the rustle up. And there is no doubt that that's where you came into your own. Every week they'd say, and the magic ingredient in the bag is, and Suzie would go, oh, that's fine, that's good, I've got that at home, that's great. The best week of all, of course, being tuna gate. So tuna is the rustle up, and Susie's going, yeah, tuna. And that wee girl, Georgia, God love her, she'd clearly never seen a tin of tuna in her life before. She looked at it, and she looked it up, and she went, what's that? I suspect she didn't even know how to open it, and you're doing a little dance of joy, and she's completely stuck.
Yeah, they may have.
She's too boyish for tin tuna.
I know, so was Sarah. So there was about 5 minutes that they cut out of them complaining. They were like, you're joking that it's a tin of tuna. And they're like, no. And they just kept going, no, but this can't be real. It's a tin of tuna. And I was like, why are you complaining, guys? There's lots of things you can do with tuna. But they just couldn't see past a tin of tuna and a salad. I got a chewing to for it. They were like, not good enough, girls. Semi-final, a fish cake and 2 salads, not good enough. So we knew we had to pull our socks up.
But at least you knew what it was.
I did.
Your big supporter, of course, was Angela Hartnett,
yes,
who praised your food so often, but in particular your pastry. The week when you did the pie with the short crossed bottom and the lattice rough puff pastry top, well, she was just in heaven. And in fact, Tom Carriage was the judge that week. He loved it.
Yeah, so I did get to showcase my pastry a couple of times, but it was Tom who loved the pie. So it was one of the best compliments that I could have ever gotten.
Here's my 2 Michelin star chefs saying that my pie is fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Angela thought you were like some sort of pastry Yoda, that you channel the force through your fingers making this pastry. So we're going to get a chance today to see that in action, because you're going to rustle up a sausage roll.
Absolutely. So I'm going to take you through my rough puff pastry. It is really quick. I can do it in real time here. So as in true fashion, here's one I prepared earlier.
Best way.
I have plain flour in here, and then I'm just going to get some butter.
Do you find now, because we talked about you being starstruck and seeing celebrities, do you find it now a little bit bizarre that people are coming up to you? Because I've been out with you and people come up and go, oh, Suzie, we love you did so well, we watched every week. Does that still feel a bit strange?
It does. It's a wee bit kind of like, are they talking to me? Because I actually have to double take going, is it someone behind me? But it's really been lovely, and I've had, I think every day I get maybe 2 or 3 hugs. Maybe not in this current climate, I shouldn't be doing that, but it's lovely to be recognised and to, like the words are, I've made them proud, and I hope I have, the country, and that's what I was doing, representing everybody. So yeah, it's strange now to be actually recognised for, not being an accountant. That exciting job. So I have got plain flour here and grated butter. If you can keep it in the fridge or freezer is even better because it makes the process a lot quicker and you can use it sooner rather than later. So what I'm going to do is put the butter in and then I'm going to blitz it to kind of breadcrumb consistency. Add some lemon juice and some water to combine to make it into like a soft dough. Okay, so I'm just going to blitz it now.
Butter-wise, are we looking at proper salted Northern Ireland butter or fancy unsalted? No, I know the answer.
Northern Irish salted butter, all the way. In the recipe, I've got this recipe on a sheet, and you can just follow the instructions there. And I've given you exact measurements. I do everything now by eye and feel. Right. So then that's in fine breadcrumbs. I put my lemon juice in, and then I add enough water, cold water, to combine it. More.
Have you always made pastry, or was it, well, I'm going to go on the bake-off, or I'm going to go on Best Home Cook, so I'd better learn how to do pastry?
I have always made pastry. So from 17, Mummy passed away when I was 16, and then I just decided I'm making pies anyway. So I was just like, let's give it a go. I love a challenge. So I thought, right, let's give this a go. And yeah, I started obviously making it proper puff pastry. I never realised how difficult it was or how time consuming. But I gave that a go, and so this has been a couple of, good number of years of experimenting to get this recipe going.
I think I speak for most of us here, in as much as the closest I've ever come to rough puff pastry is opening the packet that I bought in the supermarket.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm using baking parchment, and this saves your worktop and just your rolling pin as well, just for things not to stick to it. So I'm just going to tip out the dough mixture onto this, and we're going to combine it, and it's quite a soft dough. Okay. It's kind of a consistency of like a scone near enough, but you want to work it together.
Pastry is one of those things as well. You don't want to overdo it, do you? It's kind of light touch.
It is a light touch, but this, obviously, you're combining the extra butter into it, so you just want to make sure that the dough is well combined. And yeah, it's, as you can see, it's quite short and crumbly. And I could have added a little bit more water to make it softer, so it's easier to work with. But if you need it a little bit, the gluten starts to work, and you're fine. So it looks a bit messy, but it'll all come together. Okay. And then my other tip is to use another bit of parchment to roll it out with. So I put it on top. I'm just going to give my hands a wee rinse.
Anything that saves dishes and cleaning up is a very good tip indeed.
Yep. Okay, so I am just going to roll this out into a rectangle. Okay, and you might need some flour just to dust so it doesn't fully stick to the parchment at all. Okay.
I know that you grew up in a house, obviously, where food was a big thing, so being part of that, cooking yourself, has that been a kind of lifelong passion?
Yeah, I was in our takeaway. I was there, obviously, when I was born. And from the age of 7, when I could hold a knife, I was allowed into the kitchens to peel.
That was brave, 7.
Yeah, wee butter knife and a peeler and peeling carrots and, chopping up onions and deveining prawns, those glamorous jobs. But what you were working towards was getting to the front, as in serving customers and being able to talk to the public. So at the age of 10, I graduated. I could see over the counter. So I was really excited.
Imagine Suzie wanting to talk to people. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
I know, and that's where the other part of when I was in London for the interview, I was told, there's a wee kind of interview with a producer, and I said, how long would it be? And they were like, 20 minutes. That was fine. Came out again, I was like, where is everybody? And they're like, they've gone. I was like, okay. And they're like, you've been in there an hour and a half. So, yeah, that tells you how much I talk. So what I've got is more grated cold butter, but frozen would be better, and that's in your recipe sheets. I am spreading half of this grated butter over 2/3 of the dough. And what this is doing, we're starting to build the layers of puff pastry then. Okay, so we're just going to pat that down. And the uncovered bit, we fold into the middle. Press it down. Press down any of the other bits of butter here. And then you're folding it onto itself here. Okay, and then save any bits of butter. You don't want to lose that. Right, and then you make a 90-degree turn. And what you're doing is you are making a long rectangle then. So push it down in the middle. And then again to one side. And then the other. So what you're trying to do is making sure that the butter is evenly spread through the pastry, because what you don't want is to roll it one direction and then it pushes all the fats and the butters to one side, and you'll get really uneven pastry and it won't flake then, and you'll get bits of it which is really doughy. So then on the other ridges you press those down till it's nice and flat and even. Okay, and I'm going to dust it a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to roll it out further.
Food has always been your passion, as you said, from the youngest age, yet not your profession, because as you also said, by profession you're an accountant. How did that happen, and do you think that now that is about to change?
Yeah, because obviously I decided to make that leap to apply for it. I obviously felt I really wanted to show something. As I said, genuinely never thought I was going to win. But yeah, I think maybe we're starting to maybe see something exciting happening in the next wee while. But not going to obviously give up the day job just yet.
So Suzie will still be cooking the books?
Yeah, so please follow me on social media, and that's what my actual tag is.
She means it, you know.
I know. It is Suzie cooking the books. So I've spread the last half of that butter onto 2/3 of the dough again. What we're doing again is folding it in on itself, and then the last fold is right over it. So that's 2 folds we've done, and what we want to do is roll it out again, and we are repeating the folds. So 3 folds is just as good, but if you can make another 4th and a 5th, even better. This was 4 folds actually last night, and it was used within 10 minutes. I put it in the fridge, and you can see the layers are super flaky, and you can see them all very crispy and individual between itself. So then, yet again, lift it, fold it in, and there you go. It's as quick as that. So literally let it rest for 10 minutes in the fridge, and it is ready to use, and that's how puffy you can get it.
And obviously, just look at those sausage rolls, they're gorgeous, they're golden, sesame seeds on top, beautiful pork fennel filling. And normally we'd say, please come up and have a sample. But unfortunately, let's just say in the current climate, we're not able to share anything at the moment. So all you can do is when you leave here today, just dream about how good Susie's sausage rolls would have tasted, and think at least you were in the same room as them. That's the most we can do today.
So we don't have 10 minutes to wait. So here is one I prepared earlier.
In the best traditions of cookery.
So if you could see, there's lovely layers of the butter and then paste of the dough butter, and that's what you're wanting. And that's when I say lamination layers, that's what you're looking for, which then creates these lovely puffy flakes. So what I'm going to do is just roll this amount into a 20 by 20 centimetre roll. I'm going to dust this again and hold it onto itself. So then I'm going to make my sausage rolls, and I have created a pork, apple and fennel recipe there, and it is super easy, super quick, and some of my cheat kind of tips are using garlic powder and also onion powder, because I would used to always cut up onions and saute them down, but actually onion powder, just as convenient and really, really easy. So you don't even have to peel or chop onions or garlic. Just throw them in.
And if you can't find sausage meat, buy sausages.
Yes, I know, I got that. A couple of people had asked me. I'd made stuffing, some kind of stuffing recently, and I'd put it on my social media, and someone was like, I can't get sausage meat, because obviously at Christmas they come in big logs or big tubs. And I was just like, just buy sausages, a pack of sausages. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, the sausages, you just peel off, slice down the skin and take the sausage meat. And they're like, oh, right.
That's a good idea, yes.
And I take things for granted, and I don't even know when I obviously figured that out, but it was just common knowledge for me. So yes, so here is the sausage meat stuffing. Another tip is with the breadcrumbs, I used a slice of bread, I just blitzed it, use old bread, whatever you have, and soaked it in some milk. And that's an Angela Hartnett tip. She told me, she was just like, that will keep the mixture nice and moist and not dry out when you're cooking it. Okay, so as you can see, my portions and my size of sausage roll is not your normal dinky, dainty. It's a very hearty Northern Irish size.
It's a Suzie-sized portion. A Suzie-sized sausage roll.
Yeah. So, a dinner? Well, for one, maybe this is for me. So, yeah. So, that was another word. Rustic they would have described my food, and maybe sometimes I think they wanted to say ugly, but I was happy just as long as they liked the taste of it,
It's all about the taste.
That's what Anne Hartnett said. She goes, don't worry about the look. So what I'm going to do is just egg wash one side, and then I am going to bring over the pastry on top of itself. So what you're wanting to do is kind of tuck and roll it over, and then you're sort of moulding the pastry over the sausage meat and sort of obviously making that kind of log shape. So as you can see, it's really easy to work with the baking parchment, because you can swivel it round and you're not trying to tear the pastry if it's got stuck, because obviously it will lift off quite easily there. As you can tell, I don't like wastage, so I try to obviously use as much of the pastry as I can. So I'm going right to the edge and just trimming off a very little bit to make it slightly more presentable.
But that is actually another aspect of being a good home cook, isn't it? Because you don't waste anything.
Yeah, I just don't. There's good food, so that's not that bad for wastage. So then I am just going to egg wash the rest of it. And then as you can see, I have sliced into the pastry in the cooked sausage rolls here, and that's obviously to give you different individual size portions, or you could keep it whole. If you just want the whole sausage roll to yourself, you don't need the guide marks to cut them up.
That's a no comment moment, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
In terms of the actual, because obviously you went and stayed in a house when you were there, you had to move away. This, by the way, obviously everywhere Suzie goes now, she brings her own professional cameraman, also husband. And Stephen was at home with the kids when you were in the house doing the whole thing. He's just nodding there, I see that.
Yeah.
And so there must have been a degree of camaraderie, obviously, but was it also that underlying current of, well, at the end of the day, it's a competition?
Yes, everybody knew why they were there, but I felt they'd picked a really good selection of people. We were all so different. Our cooking styles were so different. So when you actually thought about it, how am I actually competing with them? Because when they produce food, you can't judge my food against someone else's, because theirs was just completely different cuisine. So it just depended on what mood the judges were and what they wanted to eat that day. So towards the end of it, because I only wanted to get to round 4, which was cake week. That's all I wanted to show. I can make cakes. Please see my cakes. After that, I kind of was like, whatever happens, happens. I'd be really happy. So I just had no expectations, and I just kept going from there and just hoping that my stuff was enough.
We shall be coming on to cakes in a moment.
Yep.
And obviously talking about in a moment, isn't this just the moment when you would be popping this in the oven behind us?
Yes, in the true TV fashion.
Yeah.
There's my oven here somewhere.
It's a virtual oven. So while it's cooking away, and before we come back to cakes, as I mentioned, you're here today to support a very important charity, and it's Project Sunrise. In South Africa, there are a lot of very poor areas, and this is one of them. And a group of members from the church here, Sunrise Project, want to go and build a creche for some very disadvantaged children, preschool age. That's what the money that you paid for tickets today is going toward. And we just want you to see a little video of what that work's going to entail and how it will change lives. Meanwhile, this event was called Let Them Eat Cake. Suzie loves cakes. Cake it is.
Yep. So, I was meant to do a lot more demonstrating here, but because I talk a lot, we're scaling this down.
We're a very bad combo in that respect.
Talking. So I had got quite a lot of people asking me about, buttercreaming and decorating cakes. So yet again, I've got a really good buttercream mixture recipe on the sheet that you'll get. But my key tips are very much like you can obviously leave it at that stage and decorate it with flowers or other different decorations. My key tip is using, this is scraper really, cost me a couple of pounds on the internet, but the key thing is to layer on buttercream more than what you actually think. It's really excessive. It's actually probably, you sort of go, well, surely that can't be right, but what that does, it sort of helps you level it. So obviously there's a guide there, and this is the turntable that I would use, and it's £5. It's a £5 on the internet, really cheap, and it can come apart, so therefore it's easier to store. So the key thing is obviously to spin it and then using the guide of the board to just scrape it around, and that's where you then get the skimming, the very straight edge skimming of it. And when you have layered it all very thickly, then that's when you can pull in the edges, and that's how people were like, what about the edges and all that, and that's what you do. If you wanted to get it to this stage then put the cake into the fridge then for at least 10 minutes, because then what you want is that you can't indent, and the tackiness of the buttercream goes away, and it makes putting on the icing a lot easier. So for that then, I would cheat, and shop bought fondant. So, who has time to make it? 1 kilogram would definitely cover this 8-inch double layered sandwich cake, and roll it out to about 1 centimetre thickness, just a larger circle, and let it overflow. And you're using the warmth of your hands to then curve down the edges and then push out the edges, because people have said, all my edges are starting to get creased and there's folds. That's why you want it to be 1 centimetre thick, because you're using your hands to just push down those wee creases, and therefore you will see those edges disappear and the folds aren't there anymore. Trim off the edges, and then these are my other 2 special tools, a couple of pounds each. These are called smoothers and paddle smoothers. And literally put a little bit of the icing sugar on top, and literally you're using that motion and the spinning of it, and you're creating the lovely flat edge, and the buttercream will then start to stick to the icing. And if you don't have time for the lovely perfect down edge around here, ribbon is perfect. There's nothing wrong with that, or some lovely royal icing or some thicker buttercream icing to then pipe around and decorate it whatever way you want.
And we have the recipe for this in the sheet?
Yes, that's on the sheet as well.
Is this Mary Berry's cake?
Near enough. I've added a few different things to it.
You messed with Mary Berry's recipe?
I did.
I love the fact that you actually cooked one of her recipes and then told her. That was very brave.
I did nearly die how she was going to react, and even Angela, she's like, that was a brave move.
So, talking of Mary Berry and recipes, is there a book in the pipeline? Go and tell us.
Yes, so you just have to watch this space. There's something out there at the moment.
Okay, so we know that things are going to get bigger and better for Suzie, Lee Arbuthnot. We're so proud of the fact that you went and won that competition for us and represented our country so well. So, and thank you, of course, today for being here and doing all of the demos, 4 of them, for a great charity. Thank you all so much for coming today.
It was my pleasure.
And contributing.
So thank you very much.
And a huge round of applause, please, for Suzie.
Thank you. There we go. Don't do that.
We're huggers. We're not worried.